Welcome back, my dear students. So the time has come where we are going to be creating an amazing feature, another amazing feature for our project. What we're going to be doing is this slided button here. Now this button, this switch, is going to be, we're going to place it right here, and it's going to allow the user to either approve or disapprove the comment. But the great thing behind the switch is that is a Bootstrap switch that sends a AJAX request to our database. So when we click the switch, it's gonna go to one side, on or off, and depending on that, it's going to send a request to the database that is going to be updating without refreshing the page. Because this lectures, I want to show you how to do AJAX with Node.js. So that's why we created that little feature. Plus, it looks good, and you can add that feature to anything you want in the application after we create this. So the first thing is that you need to get Bootstrap Switch, okay? So inside all your files for your project, you should have a folder that's called Bootstrap Switch. Okay, so when you downloaded this in the beginning of the course, this is where you will find that Bootstrap Switch, okay? And we're gonna need two files from here. We're gonna need a CSS that's in Bootstrap 3 folder, bootstrap.switch.min.css, and the bootstrap switch.min.js. Okay, simple. So let's go and add this to our project. Okay, let's come back here, and I'm gonna add this inside the public CSS. That's the first one right here. Okay, I'm gonna open my project and add it there. Now my project is in another right here, so I'm gonna drop all that in there. Well, this .min. Then in the JS folder inside admin, I'm gonna drop this right here. Okay, actually I already had it there, but right here, see that? Admin. Okay. So now, one thing that I wanted to do in our application is that, I don't know if you noticed, we have a couple things that a couple bugs that we need to address, a couple loose ends, but we also have features that we want to add later on, right? But one thing that I wanted to get it over with right now is this my post section, where we go and when we update our my post, the redirection is wrong. It's going to take it to admin post, and when we delete it, it's also going to take us to admin post. So let's fix those redirections real quick before anything else. So I'm going to go to our post routes, and right here on delete, I'm going to make sure that this is my post right here. And we got a couple things like this that we need to fix, guys. But don't worry, I just want to show you the main features, and then later on we address those things more. We're gonna make this project look awesome and work awesome right here. Okay, those are the things I want to do. In the put, make sure that that's there, and make sure that this is there. Okay. So now we got to link this Bootstrap switch to our application. But another thing that I wanted to do here in the layouts admin handlebars is that I want to take the footer out of here. I want to take a footer and a couple other files from here, and I want to put it in a partial. Okay, so let me see if I find the footer here somewhere. Right here. Okay, and right below the container, I'm gonna add the footer. I don't know if that's going to affect negatively our application, but we're gonna find out soon. So I'm gonna say admin footer, and we're gonna create this partial right here. So it's footer.handlebars. Okay, I'm just gonna paste all that code in there, and let's look at our. It looks like it's still good. Okay, so now it's time for us to link this down here. Okay, let's go to script. Let's do script. Okay, And that's actually basically, you can copy this guy right here instead of writing all that. And you can make a little comment, okay? Um, let's make a comment saying, right here. And inside admin, we have a file called bootstrap. Make sure you spell it correctly, okay? I have made this mistake a couple times and it has cost me many hours. Dot min.js. And you can look at it in the public JS admin right here, okay? We're gonna find out if it's linked properly. So that's all the things that we're gonna be doing in this lecture here. On the next one, we are going to be starting our, starting our code, creating an input field element, and then activating Bootstrap switch so that way we can see that button. See you in the next lecture. Okay, so we got Bootstrap switch installed. Now it's time for us to create that input that we want. So let's go to comments index, and right after the first name, we're gonna add another cell here. We're gonna say input. We're gonna give it the checkbox type. We're gonna give it a name that says approve comment. Now we don't have a field on the database. What I want to do is I want to put some data. I want to put a field in the database that would allow us to either approve or disapprove the comment. So we're gonna do that in a minute, but I want to show you how this button works, okay? So that's it. That's what we're gonna do here. And now we gotta go and activate this. Let's go to our footer now, because that's where we have our everything. Let's create another script tag here to start writing some JavaScript. Okay. So here. So let's use jQuery that we have in this course, and let's do this. Let's access a name field that has approve comment, and that's the only one that we have that has approve comment, right? And then we are going to activate Bootstrap switch right here, like this, and that now should give us. Now I'm gonna take this thing out of here. Let me see something real quick. Let's go to routes, admin comments. Okay. The reason why this is giving us that issue is because of this ID right here, which is really bugging me. Every time we do this, we have to go and log in, okay? So that's one thing that we might have to build. Well, in development, you might want to actually take that off. But anyways, you can see right here, it's kind of working and it's not working. Something is wrong with it, okay? And what is wrong with it is that we're not linking the CSS yet. So let's go and link that. Let's go to our admin. We don't even have a header for admin, do we? We need to get a header too and separate this. It would be a lot easier to manage. So let's come back here, and after this, let's create another link. And now let me see something here real quick. Our path is CSS. Okay. I thought I had an admin folder here somewhere. Oh, I do have an admin folder in JavaScript here on the JS file, but I don't have it here, so that's okay. Let's come back here and let's call this bootstrap switch. Hopefully I'm spelling that correctly. Dot min dot css. Okay, let's look at it now. Refresh, and now we have that switch. Click it, and voila. But now we have it on the wrong place, right? Because we don't have a heading for it. So let's go back to our views, comments, index, and that's right here. So let's create a heading after the this. Refresh, and now we can see, okay, we call this status, and it's a heading, so it shouldn't have. There we go. There we go. So that's it. We have it working now. So in the next lecture, we're going to start writing some JavaScript and making this, send some type of AJAX request to our database to update our model, which we're going to create also. We're going to create a field in the model for this type of functionality. See you in the next lecture, guys. Take care. Welcome back, my dear students. So in this lecture, we are going to try to see if we can make an AJAX request and at least have it working before we do anything, right? Let's go and create a little field here that we're going to need. I'm going to put it right below body. It's going to be called approve comment. It looks like, yeah, I thought I had it here somewhere. Approve comment. And we're going to make it a type of, we want this to be a Boolean value, either true or false. Simple as that. Okay, so now let's go back to our footer here and let's start playing around with it. First thing that I want to make sure is that my document has loaded. Okay, so document.ready, jQuery function, very useful. And we can even use the new syntax here. Okay, just to make it a little prettier. And let's go ahead and attach some type of event handler on that switch. So every time we click it and it goes to one side, we receive some type of data. Okay, we're gonna listen for it. So let's go and use the same thing right here. I'm not gonna write all that code again. There we go. And now we're gonna say on, and there's this event handler here. Switch change dot bootstrap switch. Hopefully I'm spelling that correctly. We're gonna find out in a minute if it works. Okay. This function here is gonna have an event and some data, and we're gonna find out if this works. Okay. Console.log. It works. All right. Oof, come on. Let's just let's see if we have this working here. So okay, we need to refresh, and of course when we refresh, let's see, hopefully it doesn't kick us out. Ugh. I'm gonna have to do something about that ID. If you want to, you can copy one of the IDs from one of the users in the database and put it there as a static value, so you don't get that error like I'm doing it. Okay, so come back here and I'm gonna click there, and mine's not working, as you can see. All right, so we got to find out why I'm not getting any type of data. This is the tricky part here. Okay, so switch change, remember the camel case there. You got to spell this. Oh, I'm misspelling this thing. Even my IDE is telling me that I am. So switch, there we go. Of course, this is gonna do that to me again. I'm gonna put a static value on the next lecture, guys, because this already it's in development, so we shouldn't have that issue. Let's come back here and refresh again. Still not working. Let's go back and let's see. Switch change bootstrap. Switch all camel case. Actually, this is not camel case. This has to be lowercase. So the first words here are lowercase. Okay, the first letter. Okay, and then the second one is uppercase. All right. Yeah, we're gonna do that static ID thing. And now you see that it works. Now we're listening to it. Okay. If you want, you can just copy from the reference files. But now we're listening for it. So it works. In the next lecture, we're gonna be sending the AJAX request and testing it out. Thank you. All right, so we got that working. Now what we need to do is, and just like I said in the last lecture, we need to create some type of static value in the user's collection. I mean, get the static value from the user collection, so that way we don't have that issue in objects in the comment section. So let's go here. I'm gonna grab this guy here. I'm gonna copy it. Actually, let's grab Edwin right here. This is what I'm doing right here. Okay, let's come back here. Let's go to the comments route right here where we are displaying the comments, and let's just put that there like this. Let's see if we have that issue now. Okay, it looks like it worked. Hi, this is Edwin from the future, and I just want to give you a heads up on something here. Remember that we're using a static user, okay? So just because we want to keep testing our application, our comments feature, we are creating this static application, so we don't have that error in our screen. But remember to take this off when you don't need it. When you want to see more comments from other users, remember to take it off, okay? I just want to give you a heads up on that, even though we are going to take this off later on in the course. If you get confused and you don't see any other comments from other users, this is the reason why. Okay? Take care and continue with the lecture, guys. Bye-bye. Let's make some type of change and we're going to find out if it works, but it should work. So now let's continue with our lecture here. So now we know that we are receiving some type of data when we are changing that switch. So what type of data we're getting back? This here, okay, let's see what do we get with E, right? Well, we already know what we're getting with E, right? We get a event, so we can say E. Let's go back here. Let's refresh. We come back here. We get that event object. Okay, so you can track all the things with that. You can track the event, and if you don't know how that works, I have pretty good JavaScript courses that can show you that. But that's for JavaScript beginners. And the data. Let's go back and see what we get in the data. Let's refresh, and you can see that the data, I get true or I get false. Now remember that with a regular input, with a regular checkbox, we get either on or off when we are checking that checkbox, right? So what Bootstrap Switch is doing is actually converting that on and off strings that we get from this input into Boolean values, which is super useful for us when we send it to a database, because that's what we're waiting for in a database, right? We're waiting for a Boolean value in that approved comment field. So, excuse me, right here, this is what we're waiting for, true and false, not on and off, because that's, and string is not reliable, okay? So let's go back to our footer and start trying to send that AJAX request. So I'm going to use jQuery for the AJAX. It's more reliable than using just vanilla JavaScript, even though we can use it. But with vanilla JavaScript, using plain JavaScript is not recommended. So I got this AJAX function that takes an object, okay? And here we can define certain things. We can define the type of data that we are going to send to our server. We're gonna also take a URL. We want to see, we got to create this endpoint in our server. We don't know that endpoint yet. We're gonna create that later. Let me check this out. Come back here. What else we need? There is a data. Okay, this is the type of data that's going there. I'm gonna send some type of object with the ID. We want to send the ID of the comment, and we also want to send that true and false values, Boolean values. Okay, you want to cache the data, you can just set this to false. You don't need this field. I'm just putting it there so that way you know the options and you can look it up later on if you want to get more in depth with it. And then we have a success that is going to have a function that's going to bring data from our server if we need the data in the front end, right? And here, and most of the time I do use this data to remove some fields in the front end to make it more interactive to the user. Okay, so this endpoint here, we need to create it. What do we want it? We know that we're sending a request to the admin, right? And we know that it's going to the admin comments. And we're just gonna call it a proof comment like this. Now we need to create the endpoint. I'm gonna create some fake data. Actually, I'm just gonna leave it like that. Let's go ahead and create an endpoint real quick, and then we'll talk about that later. Let's go to routes, admin, and comments, and the endpoint I'm gonna create it right after delete. Okay. Excuse me. So it's router dot get what is it? Proof comment. I think I did put two P's in there. Make sure that you have the same. You can just copy this guy here and paste it there, because that way we don't make mistakes, right? It's good to make the mistakes though. You know how I like the mistakes. Okay, and of course we're gonna get the request and a response. And we're just gonna say that send it works. Okay, let's go back to here. Let's refresh this. Let's take this out. And when we click here, it says it cannot find the endpoint. You see that? And let me tell you why it could not find the endpoint, because this is a get and it's supposed to be a post. Okay, and now let's refresh again. And we click here. We don't see anything there. So that means something's working, right? Let's go to the network tab, refresh again. Let's kill everything there. Click there. And now you can see, if I can, I don't know what's going on with my table there. There we go. So refresh again. All these get requests, and then when we click here, we're supposed to have a post request here, right here. See that? When we click on it, it says 200 okay. That means everything's good. And then response, it works. So now we are able to send an AJAX request using this button here. That means we can update or do whatever we want in the back end, and nobody will ever have to have a refresh page right here, which is pretty cool. So are you guys liking the course so far? Good stuff. I'm glad. I'm going to see you in the next lecture, where we are going to be finally trying to update this data in our collection in the database. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Welcome back, my dear students. So we know that we can send a AJAX request and it works. Now it's time for us to start getting a little deeper into this functionality. So the next step is that we need to send data, right? We need to send data to our endpoint right here. We need to first grab the ID of the comment and then grab the Boolean value, all right, to insert into our database. Now remember that we have this here in the model. We need to come and insert that true and false value here. Okay, so let's go back to the footer here, and so we need to get the ID of the specific comment right in here somehow, and we're gonna use jQuery for that. I'm gonna go to comments index, and on that same checkbox, I'm going to create some custom attribute here. I'm gonna call it data ID or something like that, and it could be anything you want. I'm gonna put the ID of this specific comment in here. So every time this is looping around, of course, the ID for that specific comment is gonna be in this data ID attribute, right? Let's go back to footers, and we're gonna pull that in. Now, one word of advice, and which really happens to me a lot, especially using the new syntax with ES6. It happened to me a lot in the beginning, and sometimes it happens to me once in a while. We're going to be using the this keyword here because I want to be able to pull the ID of the specific element that we are listening for on the change event right here. So we have a change event here occurring, but I want to pull the ID from that specific element that change is being happening on. So for example, let's create a variable here. I like to use const a lot. This is not going to change, so it's just clean. I'm going to use jQuery, the this keyword, and I'm going to be saying, I want you to grab the attribute value from data ID. Okay. Now, this is not going to work because we're using this new arrow syntax here, this fat arrow function. Because when you're using this new syntax here, the this keyword does not refer to this specific element anymore. It goes global. Okay, so it would bring back like the window or the document, the whole thing in the picture. If you want to see how it looks, you can just go ahead and say console.log, and you know, console.log this like this or something like that, and you can see that it's not the ID itself, it's not the element itself, it's global, it's something else, it's a big window object there. So we don't want this to be global, so what we need to do is we need to change this to function like this. Take this arrow, this thing out, and that's it. Okay, we want this keyword to refer to the element that we're listening on. Okay, so now this should be good, and we're gonna log this ID into the console or console. And when we click here, let's refresh this real quick. Click here, we get the ID. Okay, let's go back. So we got the ID, so I'm gonna put it right here. Okay, so we got this object that we're sending in, and it has the ID, and this is the ID on top. Don't get it confused. Okay, so that's the first thing. We got the ID. Now we need the approved comment data, the Boolean value, and the Boolean value is in the data field. Remember that if we do console.log data, you get the true and false out of that. Okay, this is the data coming in from that plugin that we installed. It's bringing us back that true and false values. So I'm gonna put a comma here. I'm gonna call this approve comment, and then data. Okay, and we can log this in the server and see it. Okay, see that data that we are sending in. As a matter of fact, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go to the comments route in the approve comment, and I'm gonna start seeing if I can see this in the server. Console.log. Let's spell it right first. Rec. Remember, this is a post request, so it's gonna come in the request. Rec body .id. Okay. So let's first see if we get the ID, and we're gonna see this in the server, of course. So let's go back here. Let's refresh. I'm gonna click that, and now let's go back here, and you should see the ID right here on the server. Let's see if we get the approved comment. Let's come back here, refresh. Let's come back here, and we don't get the approved comment. It's giving me a post error. Let me see if that's what I found there. There we go. We get the true value right here. See that? Let's do that to the other side, and then we should get the false value. Okay, so that's our data is actually here. It's working really good. Okay, so make sure that you got that working. Okay, remember the data attribute with the ID. Okay, and then here we create this variable, this constant. We pull it out from the this attribute data ID, which is this guy right here. Pull that from there. And remember, we're using the this keyword, so we need to change that fat arrow function to a function, regular function. So it relates to this object, to this element that we're listening on. Okay, pretty cool. So let's leave it at that, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Okay, so now that we know that we have the data that we need in our endpoint, let's take this out. We don't need this anymore. I'm just gonna click on that. So now that we know that we have our data here, let's start playing around with it, right? So the first thing that we need is we need to update, right? We need to do a query here with Mongoose. So let's do comment dot, and we're gonna use find by ID and update. All right, it should be easy. And now we're gonna get the request dot body dot ID, right? Because that's what was coming from the request. And here we're gonna update. So we're gonna use the set operator here, and we're gonna set a field that's called approve comment. Okay, we're gonna set it to whatever comes from our request, which is the approve comment as well. Okay, like that. And then after this, we're gonna get, of course, a callback. If we want, we can actually use a a promise, but I can also use a callback here that would bring the error and the result. Okay, like that. I just wanted to show you this way as well. This way is pretty good too. If error, return error, or throw it, or you can throw the error, and then we can just send the result back. Okay, simple as that. So now let's see if this works. Okay, we wrote a lot of data there. Well, not a lot of, but let's go and see if this works. Let's check our database. Our posts, our comments don't have a approved comment field, but if we go and do this, and let's see what we get. Refresh, and you can see now that it says approved comment true. Okay, now if I do this, we refresh, and you can see now that approved comment is false. Okay, so it is working. Welcome back, my dear students. So we have good stuff happening here. Okay, we're able to send an AJAX request, update our database, update our comments to either allow or not allow comments. Great stuff. One thing that I wanted to make you aware is that this extra comment here, remember that we're not seeing it because we're using a static ID in our code. Okay, just because we don't want that error, right? If we go to actually comments right here, we see that we're using a static ID somewhere here, right here. Okay, once we take that off, when we finish with comments and put the current user ID, we should be fine, because we need to enable all those routes later on to protect our application, enable all those that feature that we created where we detect for the logged in user. Okay, so anyway, I wanted to make you aware that that comment is there. We're just not seeing it because we are using a static ID for the user. Okay, so what's the next step? Well, I want to let the user know that we have that we are updating the comment here and that it went successfully. So I want to use a library that I like very much. It's called toast tr. If I can spell it right, that would be nice. Toast tr. And let's just use the cdn. And come here to cdn.js, and we're gonna use the minified version, which is you can use the latest versions if you want. Just to be on the safe side, I'm going to use just the normal one. Actually, the all latest versions actually, so it's all good. So I'm gonna use let's get the CSS first in the admin. I'm gonna put this right after the switch, and let's go back and get the JS. And I'm gonna put that in the footer right after the switch. Okay, and you can make your own comments here. I'm not going to do that right now. Okay, so the way you will use this is super simple. In our success right here functionality, we can use and we can say, well, once we get the data, we can say, well, we're gonna use toast tr dot success, and they have different functionalities there, different methods, so you can check their website. And we can say record updated or whatever you want. Let's come back here. Let's refresh. When I click on this, we can see the record updated. Pretty cool stuff, right? Record updated again. Now you can get some more information out of here. Remember that we're getting the data here. So if you want, let's use template strings here. And we can say comment with ID data.id was updated. Let's come back here, refresh, click on this, and it says undefined. Let's make sure that we are actually sending some data back. So let's go to our comments here and approve comment. We are sending the result. Idea why this was undefined is because we need to actually, we get an object with underscore ID. So we get an object. When we do data, we get, remember that the result that we get right here, the data, is the user, the comment itself. Okay? We just did not use a promise. If we would have used a promise, it would be more clear, or we can just say comment here. Okay? So you're gonna get that comment back. Let's refresh, and when we click here, you can see comment with ID was updated. Let's actually fix that right here. Okay, I hope you guys like this functionality very much. It's very useful. It just makes things look a lot better, and it just gives the user some type of feedback on what's going on behind the scenes, right? Pretty cool stuff. I hope you like it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next lecture. All right, so we are almost done with this comment section here. We have the pop-up working, we have AJAX working, we have a lot of cool things working for us. That's great. But right now we have a little bug. If we click this button here and we refresh, we are gonna get this going back to the same state that it was before, which is the off. So we need to fix that. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the code and let's fix that. That's really easy to do. So if we go back to our comments index view right here, and right here in this checkbox where we are, displaying that nice switch, we can say, let's do an if statement here. We can do if approve, actually if, let's go back here, if approve comment, then we can display the check. Okay, and let's just finish that like this. Okay, so let's go back here and let's refresh and let's see that works. Okay, that looks like it's working. Look at that. So let's come back here and let's refresh, and as you can see, it is working. There we go. Now let's check our database real quick. Refresh, and we have one true and true, so both of them are working 100%. That's great stuff. Let's turn one off. Let's refresh here, and we can see that goes back to false. Okay, so really good. That's working. So the next step to do would be to go to the front of our CMS here, and if we click here, we can see now that we are displaying all comments here. Now this is fine when the comments are approved, but if the comments weren't approved, we don't want to display them there. So for example, I'm gonna turn them off, and if I go back to the front page, we can still see all the comments here. So we need to do some filtering. Let's go back to the code and let's fix that. So if we go to the view for post, see post that handlebars right here, and where we are displaying comments, okay, we can do a little, check right here to see if this comment is approved, and we can do it using handlebars. That's great. But we can also filter this before it even gets to our handlebars, before it even gets to our view. Like I'm saying right now, we could say, hey, listen, if it's approved, display it. If not, don't display it. But we're not going to do that, right? Let's go back to our route home index, and right here where we are displaying that individual post, we can do a little bit more filtering here. So I want to show you how to make a query right here, how to constrain our information, our data. And we can do something like this. Match, and we want to match the approve comment. We want to make sure that it is true before we even get it. Okay? We only want to query for the approved comment if they are true. So now if we go back here and we refresh, we can see that the data is no longer there. Okay? So that's one way to filter that, which is pretty cool, I think. See that? Now let's go back to admin real quick, and I want to show you that this works. And let's go back here, and let's refresh. And now you can see that comment there. Let's do the other one. There we go. And refresh, and there. Voila. Nice work, guys. Nice work. Now let's go ahead and check the comment model here real quick. I want to just make sure that our comment approve here, this approved comment field or object has a default value. So I want to make sure that this default is false. Okay. So every time you create a comment, you want to make sure that they are default, because you don't want to approve comments unless you read them, right? So that's pretty cool stuff. And that's it for comments. I think we're done, and I hope you guys are enjoying the course. Please spend a couple minutes to review the course if you're happy with it. If you're not happy, keep going on the course. I'm pretty sure we're going to find some features that you're going to love, and you're going to give this course a 5-star review. See you in the next lecture, guys. Take care. Hi, welcome, my dear students. So another little feature before we leave this comment section, and I might be adding some more things later on, but right now I think this is the last thing we're going to be doing. Right now, when we make a comment, hello, click submit, we don't have any type of notification for the user to let them know that their comment is not going to show until it's moderated, right? Until somebody reviews it. So let's go back to the code real quick, and let's see where we can add this feature. So right now, if we go to our admin, our home index right here, we can see that this is where we displayed our comments, but that's not where we create a comment, right? Let's go to admin, and we have a post request here somewhere, okay? And that where we create a new comment. We don't have any flash, right? So it would be nice to have some type of flash like we do in post. Let's say, for example, let's look right here, rec flash, like this, right? So let's go back to comments, and right below, before we redirect, let's do this. Now, guys, in some of these lectures, remember that, I could be from the future. So you might see some other code that is not going to be the same as you have it at that moment. So do not worry about, just worry about what I'm doing right now, okay? Just worry about the code that we're adding right now. Like, for example, I'm pretty sure that you have post ID here. Okay, later on we're gonna change this to slug because we're gonna be creating pretty URLs. But do not worry about this right now. Worry about this feature right here. So I'm just gonna say your comment will be you have created your comment. Let's see, what can we do? Comment will be review in a moment, or something like that. Okay, I think you write moment with 2 M's. I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, in a second. All right, so let's just put this there and let's see what happens if we try to create a comment. Let's see, submit, and of course we need to be logged in for that, right? Let's go back here and submit, and now you say it says your comment will be reviewed in a second. Okay, so that's pretty cool. And that's it. That's all we got to do for this here. And remember, again, this is Edwin from the future. So if you see some things here that are not the same as yours, do not worry. We'll get there. You'll eventually get there. Thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you on the next lectures. Have fun.